It says in John 3:16, "For God loved the world so much that he gave his only Son. God gave his Son so that whoever believes in him may not be lost, but have eternal life." St. Paul believed in Jesus. St. Paul spent most of his life telling others about Jesus. In today's story, we're going to learn how St. Paul was travelling to Rome and how he ended up in a shipwreck, but how he was saved and all the other people on the boat as well. I hope you enjoy it. Paul was leaving Caesarea, which is near Haifa in modern-day Israel. He was going to face trial in Rome. He said goodbye to all of his friends. Paul had been arrested by the Romans and charged with causing trouble just because he was a Christian. He wanted his case to be heard by Caesar in Rome, so scary Roman soldiers were taking him there on a boat. The ship set sail for Rome. The wind began to blow really strongly, forcing the captain to take the boat in a different direction. At the port of Myra, they boarded an Egyptian ship bound for Italy. After several days of very rough sailing, at last they took refuge in the port of Fair Havens. They sailed to the shelter of Fair Havens port, and they rested there for several days. Paul said, "I believe there's going to be trouble ahead if we sail on. Perhaps we will have a shipwreck. Perhaps we will lose all our cargo. Maybe some of us will get hurt. Maybe some of us will die." But they did not listen to him. They were sailing along close to land when suddenly a big typhoon-strength storm blew up. They tried to turn back to shore, but they couldn't, and they just had to go where the ship was being taken. The next day, the sea grew higher and higher. The crew began throwing the cargo overboard, and the following day they threw out anything else they could lay their hands on. The terrible storm raged unabated. It didn't stop for many days, until at last all hope was gone. Paul called the crew together and said, "Men, you should have listened to me, and this would not have happened. But cheer up. An angel visited me last night, and he said, 'Yes, the ship will go down, but we will all be safe.' God has told me I'm going to speak to Caesar in Rome. So do not fear. We will get through this." The storm blew until the ship was close to land. The crew took soundings. The water was getting shallower. Some of the sailors planned to abandon the ship and lowered the lifeboat. But Paul said to the soldiers and commanding officer, "You will all die unless everyone stays aboard." So the soldiers cut the ropes and let the lifeboat drift away. As the darkness gave way to the early morning light, Paul begged everyone to eat. "You haven't touched food for 2 weeks," he said. He gave thanks to God and they ate. He reassured them, "Not a hair on your heads shall perish." The ship then hit a sandbank and ran aground. The front of the ship was stuck fast in the sand, and the waves began to break it apart. The soldiers wanted their commanding officer to let them kill the prisoners in case they swam ashore and escaped. But Julius liked Paul and he wanted him to live, so he refused. Then he ordered all who could swim to jump overboard and make it for land, and the rest to hold on to planks and debris from the broken ship. All 276 people on board
made it safely ashore, just as God had promised. God kept his promises. All the people on that boat got safely to shore, and Paul got to Rome, just as he was promised.
God kept his promises to Paul, and that means he will keep his promises for us. Shall we say a prayer? Dear Lord, thank you that you keep your promises. Thank you that, like Paul, we can trust you with our lives. Amen.